Dog Works Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dog Works. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com.
Start your day tomorrow with The Daily Dog with Michelle Forto, the morning podcast on Dog Works Radio. Apple Podcast reviewer Patty Christensen calls it funny, smart, and filled with all the info I want to know about dogs. I love this show. Wake up with The Daily Dog. Available on Dog Works Radio on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your shows.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Robert Forto, the co-host of the Sibe Vibe. And we have a whole bunch of episodes over on our old podcast feed, and we thought it would be cool to import them here to our new one. On this episode, we re-air a broadcast that we did quite a while ago, but it's a good one. Her name is Mallory Brusletten. Take a listen.
From two beautifully scenic and historic locations, the Hudson Valley, New York, and Willow, Alaska, this is the Sibe Vibe, brought to you by Dog Works Radio. Your hosts are author, journalist, and photographer, the Five Sibes mom, Dorothy Wills-Raftery, and Dog Works Radio executive producer, canine behaviorist, trainer, and lead musher of Team Maneke, Robert Forto. The Sibe Vibe is all about the magnificent breed of the Siberian Husky. From training to grooming, and for those who show and breed. From parenting to playing and rescuing Huskies in need. Whether mushing over snow-covered trails or lounging on tropical shores. Even for Hollywood Sibes on the big silver screen, and so very much more. If it's about a Siberian Husky, we'll chat about it here.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Robert Forto hosting from Willow, Alaska, and on the line calling from the Hudson Valley of New York is our host Dorothy Wills-Raftery. Dorothy, how's it going?
Hi, Robert. It's going. Exciting was we had a little snow squall here today, so that was kind of getting the Huskies a little excited.
Nice.
Nothing like a little snowtober to get us going, right?
Right.
How's everything with you in Alaska? I see you've been doing some practice running out there.
Things are going well. You know, that dang global warming, I think, is hitting us up here. Here we are at the end of October, and we're still facing all this rain that we usually see in August.
Wow, we've definitely kind of flip-flopped our weather, I think, for the past couple years.
I think so, too.
So you had a little bit of a fright up there. You had one of your lines snap, I saw you write about. Can you just tell us if everybody's okay and what happened?
Everybody's good. It's a very rare occurrence for one of our main lines to break on our, we were training with our ATV with 12 dogs, and it broke right there near where it hooks to the ATV, and the dogs took off. Nicole held on as long as she possibly could, was dragged for about 50 feet or so, and we finally caught up to the dogs, quarter to a half a mile down the road there, luckily before they reached the highway.
Well, I'm certainly glad that everybody's okay.
Yes, everybody's fine. Nicole's a little scratched up, but she's a tough girl.
She's a tough girl, boy. I'm telling you, she's an inspiration, that one. She really is. So I'm just glad everybody's fine. Now, this past summer, our show went on a brief hiatus. As some of our listeners and my readers know, my 94-year-old mom was hospitalized and went into rehab. And I just want to take a minute to thank everyone for all their well wishes, prayers, and lovely notes and comments they've been sending me for her. A quick update, it's a bit of a roller coaster. She has good days and she has bad days. And, as any child with an ailing parent can attest, it really is an emotionally difficult situation because it is heartbreaking to see them hurt, but I'm taking it day by day, and she is in an excellent care facility, and I'm enjoying our special moments that we have together, and just praying for her overall comfort. So all the support that I've been receiving from our wonderful canine community is just really heartwarming, and I want to thank all my readers and listeners from the bottom of my heart. It really means a lot.
Very nice.
Rob, yeah, it's just tough, but I think we all at some point or another go through something like that, and I think that's where the wonderful support comes from,
Of course, yes.
Now, Robert, in August, we clicked over our third year of broadcasting the Sibe Vibe. I know we didn't have a show in August, but I do want to take a couple of minutes and say happy anniversary to us. And,
yes.
Big thank you for producing the show. And, thank you, of course, to all our listeners who keep tuning in. And, Robert, how do you feel about us turning 3?
Man, I think we're doing great. Every time we look at the stats of people listening, it's so interesting because things will pop up that are a couple almost 3 years old that people are still listening to on this show.
Well, that's pretty neat to hear.
Yes.
But, we have to thank them for listening to us, so that's part of the reason why we're still on, right?
Of course.
And to all our wonderful guests, because each and every one that we have on has been fabulous. And today's show, we'll be chatting with Mallory Brusletten, and she, as she says, from Virginia. And she's the Hugh mom to a beautiful Siberian Husky named Rocco, who is not only an epi dog, which is a canine epileptic, but is also a tripod, as well as his brother. She's also the mom to his brother, a handsome husky mix named Porter. And Porter is a service dog, and we're going to talk about him a little bit later, too. Mallory is also the admin to the Facebook group, The Husky Network, and the new Facebook page, The Adventures of Rocco and Porter. Mallory says she actually fell in love with the Siberian Husky breed back when she was in elementary school when the movie Snow Dogs came out, and I love that movie.
Yes.
She said that while it sounds, quote, weird now, back then she and her school friend would pretend they were the Huskies in the movie. And having a young girl at one time, I can perfectly see this happening, Mallory. Her father's breed was German Shepherds, and that's what her family had and she was used to. Then when she moved out of her parents' house, she fostered a beautiful Husky Shepherd mix named Chastity, and she said she fell in love with the breed all over again. When Mallory met her husband, he had a beautiful Finnish Spitz mix, and she unfortunately passed away at 9, and they decided to take a break from having dogs for a little bit. After the birth of their son, Mallory says it was time to welcome a new canine member to the family. They agreed on a Husky, a breed she said her husband fell in love with when he met a sled team while he was stationed in Alaska. He's a member of our U.S. military, and one that she has always dreamed of having. And then enter Porter, and shortly after Porter came Rocco. Now, Rocco's story is an inspirational one. While Mallory says his medical history is shaky, they do have records from when he was 1.5 years old. He is now almost 4. Mallory says Rocco's previous owner was a Vietnam vet who became homeless and reached out for help. Enter Mallory and her husband. The connection of the story of how Rocco came to be part of the Brusletten family is a powerful and inspirational one, and it attests to the fact that love and caring does indeed work in mysterious ways. Mallory, so happy to welcome you to the Sibe Vibe.
Thank you for having me.
Now, tell us the story of how you first met Rocco and his owner, the veteran.
Well, I saw a post on Facebook about a guy who needed someone to foster his husky for him because he became homeless. The lady who was posting for him mentioned he was a vet, so I commented saying, my husband's a vet. We've been through this before. We would be glad to welcome him into our home. And so we met him at a mall, picked up Rocco. It was a very heartfelt goodbye. This guy was crying. He had his other dog with him who was going to stay at his sister's house. And it was very hard on him. And so we brought him home. We made him welcome. He was introduced to our dog and our cat. They've all gotten along flawlessly. My other dog and him are best of friends. They're inseparable.
Now, you were saying this really hits a little close to home, because you stated not only is your husband a veteran, and please thank him for his service, but that you also had been homeless at one time. How did this overall affect you? It had to be even bigger than just helping, the dog. So this had to really have affected you when you first heard about it.
I remember it was a very humbling experience. It makes me extremely thankful for everything we have now and everything that we've worked for. I remember what it was like not knowing where we were going to be the next night or if we had enough for food or anything like that. So we made sure that we do everything we possibly can to return the favor of all the help that we received.
That's really great. Now, through your husband's veteran connections, you reached out and you helped this man and you helped his husky by giving him the home until he could find a new place to live, which thankfully you and your husband actually helped find a home for him. Can you tell us the decision that went into Rocco not being able to go with his former owner and how he actually became a permanent part of your family?
Well, I received a call from, I can't remember how the relationship is, either his friend or his sister, saying that he actually got a husky puppy and no longer wanted Rocco to come home and asked if we could keep him.
Wow.
So we said absolutely. We fell in love with him.
And you had Rocco for a while at that point?
We've had him for a couple of months, but at that point, yes.
And now Porter's your other dog, and that's a husky mix. And he's a service dog for your 2-year-old son, who you have said has autism. Can you tell us how Porter first came into your lives and about the relationship he has with your son?
We were looking for a puppy, just a certain family member. We weren't actually looking for a service dog at that point. My son was still young. He was having delays, but we weren't sure why. We were just looking for, a family member. And we saw an ad for cute little husky mixes, and they were absolutely adorable. We actually went to go look at his brother, and Porter is the one that came up to us and said, "No, I'm your dog."
They do have a way of doing that.
Yep.
Now, how does he help your son, and how did they bond?
Well, they bonded since day one. I have pictures of them napping together. I mean, they've clicked, and Porter very much went from family dog to my son's dog. And, I mean, my son has major meltdowns. Sometimes they actually can end up causing self-harm. And what Porter will do is my son likes to bite his arm, so Porter will push his arm away. When he starts becoming like that, my son will throw himself on the floor, and Porter will kind of nudge him and get him back up. My son doesn't really do well in social settings. He gets nervous. He doesn't know what's going on all the time, and Porter gives him a sense of confidence out in the social setting.
That's really wonderful. I'm sorry, I think we had a little bubble in the phone line. And how old is your son today?
My son, he's almost 2.5.
He's almost 2.5. And now Rocco and Porter hit it off. You can tell I've been off air for a couple months here. How did Rocco and Porter hit it off when Rocco was then introduced?
Porter absolutely adored him from day one. Rocco and Porter's a little hyper, as all young huskies are. So Rocco was a little taken back about it. Rocco is used to living with a senior dog who didn't really play very much. So Rocco learned to play with him. They were cuddling the day we got him. I went to grocery shopping. I came back, and they were both on the couch curled up.
Aww. Now, you said although a mix, Porter is very much a husky in nature and is quite vocal, which any of us husky parents know how that is. Can you tell us a little bit about his husky isms?
Well, like all huskies do, he likes to dig in the yard when he's off duty. So I have a couple of Porter husky mind bombs in the yard.
That's interesting. You said off duty. So does he know definitively like when he is on and when he has time off?
He knows the commands. He knows when I say off duty and let him outside, he's allowed to play and be a dog. If we go to the dog park, I'll tell him he's off duty, and he again knows he's allowed to be a dog at that point and do his own thing. He still picks up on my son, so if he notices my son is getting upset, or he notices my son is also a runner, and Porter will bark if he sees CJ take off. So he'll still keep an eye on him, and he'll still let us know, but for the most part, he knows that he's allowed to be a dog at that point.
And when you brought Rocco home, how did your son, because now it was your son and Porter, and how did the whole trio, did they blend well? Did your son take right to Rocco? Did Rocco take right to your son?
My son absolutely adores dogs. It's one of his favorite animals. So he likes all dogs. We did have to work on it because he would get in Rocco's face, and Rocco, while he didn't do anything, was just like, why is this kid in my face? Rocco's patient with him. I'll give him that much. He's very patient with him. He won't do anything, but Rocco kind of prefers to be with the adults than the kid.
And that's quite understandable. And he will play ball. Because I was going to say that's understandable because he actually came from an adult home, Rocco did.
Yeah.
Now, what is it about the Husky breed that drew you to them?
Their beauty, their intelligence, the fact that they're goofy, because we're actually a very goofy family. So we needed a dog that could be just as humorous as we are. And we go out all the time. I mean, we're big into the outdoors. We go to the river, we go hiking, and we needed a dog that could be just as active.
They're definitely goofy. That's one of the most charming things I think about them. And Robert, you have 50-some-odd dogs, and I bet there's some goofy ones in there, right?
36 of them, and most of them are Alaskans, but those Siberians, they have a special curiosity about them, don't they?
They sure do. Mallory, you've mentioned that you really did your homework on the Siberian Husky breed before bringing both of them into your home, and that you learned a lot from fostering Chastity, who was a runner, as many Huskies, of course, are. And any side parent can attest to that. They're more like marathon runners. And how did having Chastity prepare you for Porter and Rocco?
Well, she taught me how important a fence is. At one point, I had an electric fence, and I thought that was good. I had trained her on it. She knew what it was. But then she learned that if she runs fast enough, she can get through it. So there were times where she would run fast enough and get through the underground fence, the invisible fences.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and she learned that if she could go fast enough, she can get through it, and it wasn't going to bite her. And that's what she would do, and she would walk around the neighborhood and say hi to everyone.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Rocco, because Rocco is a tripod. He's a dog with 3 legs. He's missing his hind left leg.
Yes.
And can you tell us what happened to him? And was he already a tripod when you took him in? And just give us a little bit of background about him.
Rocco was already a tripod when we got him. We have absolutely no idea what happened. It would have had to happen in that first year and a half. Everything is completely missing. His old owner thought that it was a coyote trap, and that's what he was told. But honestly, that's the only story that we have and what we go off of. My vet says come up with something cool like a shark attack.
Now, you said he enjoys all the activities that you do, and that he loves to go for swims in the river, play fetch with your son, romping with the squirrels, and he's even best friends with a cat, which for my Huskies, that's a big deal, being friends with a cat. I mean, we have a feral that we...
cats. We have a 10-week-old kitten, too, that he actually absolutely adores.
Oh, that is so cute. Oh, because, they do have a prey drive, and I know our feral cat here, who's very brave because he thinks he's a dog, and he goes in the backyard now, and he tries to go over by the dogs, which are behind the deck gate. They're not quite as receptive. I think they would like to play with him. So I'm really impressed when I hear, I know there's a few folks who have Huskies that get along well with cats, and I'm always amazed by that. So it sounds to me like having 3 legs does not stop him from enjoying life. He sounds pretty amazing. So how does he get around? And, do you use a cart, or does he get around well on his own? And does he even realize that he's a tripod?
He gets around on his own fairly well. For the most part, he doesn't even really know that it's not there. He plays, he runs. We went to the dog park with a couple of other Siberian Husky owners this morning, and he was keeping up with the best of them.
That's amazing to me.
There are times where, it's a little humbling for him, and he does come to the realization. There are things, when we go to the river, there are times where his daddy has to help him get from a different rock, or if the water starts getting too deep, his daddy helps him. There are times where he will forget that it's not there, and you'll see his little nub move when he's trying to scratch his ear, and then he'll realize, oh, wait, and then he'll come to me to scratch it. But for the most part, he goes.
They really adapt quite well, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Now, Rocco is also an epidog, a canine epileptic. Now, let's talk a little bit about that too. And of course, next month, I do a lot of awareness for canine epilepsy as well. But can you tell us what are his seizures like, and when was he diagnosed with epilepsy? Again, was that before you adopted him or after?
That was before I adopted him. They told me he had seizures and everything like that, and my vet actually read his records and said, no, he has epilepsy. Because we were actually talking because he didn't have seizures for quite a while, so we were talking about actually lowering his dose. And so we were just going through all the records to see if that was okay for him and everything like that. Unfortunately, because of his recent seizure, we are keeping the dose at the same. But his body tenses up. It kind of looked, that first time that I saw it, it kind of looked like he was about to trip. Mm-hmm. And I thought it had to do with his legs, so I was getting ready to catch him, and then he completely fell to the ground, body completely tensed, mouth foaming, all of that.
Now, what kind of medication is he on? I know you've mentioned to me that he and your husband are what you refer to as med buddies because they are actually on the same medication. Rocco for his epilepsy, your husband for essential tremors. And how has the medication helped both of them, and how do they help each other?
Well, Rocco and my husband are both on zonisamide. My husband has tremors where he shakes all the time, so it keeps his tremors pretty much non-existent. There are times where his hands will still shake and everything like that. But they both take one pill in the morning and one pill at night, and he will say, Rocco, come on, let's get our medicine, and they will both go up and take their medicine together.
And with Rock, that's a unique bond in itself, what they have there. So, do you feel that there's also, a great benefit to both of them going through this, with each other?
I think they have, or at least my husband, I can actually speak for him since he actually talks human. I think.
Wait a minute. My huskies don't talk human? Really? No.
I think it kind of gives them a better understanding of each other. They kind of know what they're going through. They know what it's like to have to take medicine every day, or they don't feel right that day. It's kind of like little, I know what you're going through kind of thing.
Yeah, like a support group almost, and that little camaraderie. I think that goes with that as well.
And my husband's great. When Rocco actually does have a seizure, my husband's right there for Rocco. I absolutely freak out, and my husband's the calm one. He knows I know how to do this.
Now, for any of our listeners who are just tuning in, this is the Sibe Vibe on DogWorks Radio, and we're chatting with Mallory Brusletten, Hugh mom to Rocco, who is an epi dog, canine epileptic, and a tripod, three-legged Siberian Husky, who is an inspiration indeed. He does not let his disability stop him from being a happy Husky who loves adventure. And Mallory, along with her friend Cassandra, spearheaded a new group, the Husky Network, a public Facebook group, where Mallory says they help Huskies find homes who are lost, who are found, and general talk about Huskies to help educate folks about the breed. You can also follow Rocco and brother Porter, and for some reason I want to put their names together and keep calling them, Roder, or it's just like, but you can follow Rocco and brother Porter on their Facebook page, and that's The Adventures of Rocco and Porter. And we'll have links to that on both our DogWorks Radio, the Sibe Vibe website, and that's at dogworksradio.com, and you can just look for the Sibe Vibe drop-down menu, as well as over on my Five Sibes blog at fivesibes.blogspot.com, excuse me, and on our Five Sibes Siberian Husky Canine News and Reviews community Facebook page. Now, Rocco just recently celebrated a 1-year anniversary of being seizure-free, which is a huge milestone, as any epi-dog parent knows. But as you just said, unfortunately, after a full year, he did just have a seizure the other day, but thankfully you said he bounced right back from it. Mallory, can you tell us, what happened and what type of seizure he had, and how is he doing right now?
Well, I wasn't sure exactly what was going on, and he was fine. I just let them in from going to the bathroom. We were in for the night, and again, he tripped, or it looked like he was tripping, and as usual, oh my God, I'm going to fall, and then completely seized. Porter actually picked up on it, and he's a service dog, but he's not trained for epilepsy. But Porter gave him his space, and then when Rocco seizure was over, Porter came over and was licking his face, helping clean up the foam. Porter actually, when Rocco laid back down, Porter laid down on Rocco's paws and just laid there for 5 minutes until he was sure Rocco was okay, and then Porter went back to doing Porter's own thing.
Wow. Now, so how much consideration, if any, went into making the decision to add 2 huskies to your family, one being a special needs husky, and not with just one condition, but 2?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Oh, sure. No, I was just wondering, like, how much consideration, if any, went into the decision to add, 2 huskies to your home, especially one having not one special need, but, Rocco has 2, being, a tripod and an epileptic dog. I mean, did you, how much, because that's a huge step for someone to take, and I think it's wonderful, and I want to commend you for, not only adopting him, but also for adopting a dog with these special needs. And, I just wondered if, you could talk a little about, like, if, did that have any effect or any bearing on a decision or none at all?
It really didn't have much bearing on the decision. We knew we could handle it. Rocco was kind of a quick, last minute, I didn't want him to go to a shelter, telling my husband we need to get him into our home for a little bit kind of decision. Like I said, my husband knows what goes on during seizures. He was trained for this kind of thing, so we knew how to handle it if that happened. We knew that if Rocco needed help, that we would be there to help him. So it was just kind of, he blended into our family, and it really didn't matter that he had 3 legs and was epileptic or anything.
I think that's wonderful, and we're going to talk a little bit in a little bit about the Husky Network, but what are your thoughts about adopting a dog with special needs?
I think it definitely does require consideration. We are blessed that we know how to handle the situation. I think that you should definitely do your research on everything, make sure that your vet is prepared to help you through the journey, because we really can do anything without a great vet by our side. And just things like that. And, is your home equipped to handle a dog? We are blessed where we have 1 floor, so Rocco doesn't have to worry about any stairs or anything. If you were to get a tripod and have 2 floors, are you prepared to help him if you want them upstairs and everything like that? Because he does have trouble with stairs. Mm-hmm. I think it definitely does take a lot of, can I handle this kind of thing, because we, especially with the group that I started, I certainly don't want to see the dog get returned to the shelter because you couldn't.
Right. So that homework and consideration up front is so critical. And by the same token, what would you say to folks who are faced with a dog who has epilepsy?
I would definitely, again, go back to having the great vet, because my vet is wonderful and picked up the phone at midnight when I called her. Not only that, just, knowing the different seizures, knowing when to take them in, because our vet actually went through a lot of epilepsy with us, with dogs. She told us as long as it's 30 seconds or less, not to worry about coming in, just call her the next day. She'll monitor him. And if it was any longer than that, or he had multiple, then to come in. It is important to keep them on their medication, because if you do miss a dose, even if it is at therapeutic levels, there's still a breakthrough seizure that's possible.
That's a really great point, because I know a lot of times that even comes up as a question all the time, even for me, because Gibson, of course, as everybody knows, is an epileptic, and, a lot of people don't understand. I could be out, and then if I'm getting late, I actually will excuse myself and come back home to make sure he gets his medication, because that is so critical. And, people will ask, is it that important for them to get medication on time? It really is, because you want to keep that level and that balance as close as you can in their system. So that was an excellent point. I'm glad that you brought that up, because it really is. And, I always suggest to people, if you don't think you're going to be home when it's time, please have someone who could go over there and do it. Just really try to stick to the schedule. It's not always convenient, but, that's the commitment we made, and we just make sure everything, as you probably do too, everything revolves around that medication schedule.
Oh, yes. When we look at vacation spots, we make sure it's vacation spots the boys can go to, so I know that they're getting everything they need.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would you say to people whose dog is looking at surgery for removing a leg and maybe having concerns and are worried about how their dog would be able to get around as a tripod, especially in those first in the beginning?
I would say no one knows your dog better than you do, so to make sure you keep an eye on them because they will tire out sooner. But for the most part, they keep up and they can do things. There's actually a wonderful story online about another tripod who's actually a pit bull in Richmond who went on to be a fly dog, and she catches frisbees for her job.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So they do adapt, and they will go back to playing. They may not be able to do everything, but they certainly do try. It's important to notice that if they're getting tired, because it does get hard on their joints, and Rocco will eventually get arthritis in his back leg. It's just knowing your dog and knowing that they will be okay.
Now,
and they will train you to scratch their itches.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
They will train you when to scratch their itches. That's an important one. Rocco trained me that first thing.
Oh, so that's one of the first things, huh?
Yep.
And
you got to be able to scratch him.
And what kind of sign does he give you? Does he turn his head, or you said earlier he kind of moves the stump a little bit?
He'll move his stump if he forgets about it. For the most part, he'll come and rest his head on my leg. You can see his ear twitching. He'll give you the look. He has a look, and I know it very well.
Now, what are some of your family's favorite activities? I know you said you do a lot of outdoor things. So what type of things do you like to do with the dogs?
Well, our favorite spot is to go to the river here, the James River. Porter absolutely loves to swim. Rocco was a little wary about it at first. I don't think he ever actually been swimming. But we've worked on him, and now he enjoys it. They know all of the spots, and when they sense that that's the direction we're going to, it becomes a husky howl fest in our car.
Now, with Rocco enjoying life, and he really is inspirational. I was looking at some of your photos the other day, and, it's funny because I had to even pull up a couple because I'm like, where is he? Because he's just, running around, and it wasn't until, I got a different close-up that I actually saw that he was a tripod. But, he really, truly is inspirational, and I love for folks to hear this because even if they're considering, if they're in a shelter and they see one or, to open their heart and homes up to dogs that have these disabilities, whether it's being a tripod, being an epi dog, both, like you guys are. As far as like Rocco or other huskies or dogs with epilepsy and or being a tripod or having a disability, and I know you talk about a lot of this in your network, but what message would you like to get out to others who are considering, bringing one of these type of dogs with special needs into their home?
I would tell them that don't be scared. Definitely do your research on it. That's the most important thing because they need you to be there for them. They rely on you. But to realize that they really are just like any other four-legged dog. They adapt. They want to play. They want to cuddle. They want to eat all of your food, all of it.
Now, let's talk about the Husky Network. You and your friend Cassandra organized it. Can you tell us a little bit about when and what inspired you to start the group?
Oh, we started it just recently, maybe like a week or two ago. There were 3 Huskies that were roaming around in her home state, in her hometown, I believe. The owner surrendered them to the shelter because he was tired of the Huskies escaping like Huskies do. One of the Huskies ended up getting adopted out and then returned to the shelter because the shelter didn't inform them on how Huskies like to dig and get out and howl and all of that stuff. And the new owners just weren't prepared for one. So he got returned back to the shelter. Thankfully, he did go on to be in a Husky home that knew about Huskies, but it kind of made us want to spread awareness, get them homes, get them correct homes, and to teach either new owners or even previous owners that want to learn something.
And I'm looking at your page right now, and I just want to let folks know. I mean, there's a gorgeous woolly husky, a woolly girl, Kira, that you guys listed from Michigan, and there's a puppy. So even folks who are looking for Siberian Husky puppies, definitely check out the page, because you guys get puppies that come across there as well that need homes. I mean, there's just so many, beautiful dogs here that are lost or found or up for adoption. You also do some talking with people about the breed husky. So I would like to talk a little bit about helping educate folks on the breed. I mean, so many of us out here, we know when you have a husky, we love to hear about people getting educated on it. And we say that because they do have very unique aspects to them and different traits that may not be right for everybody. And most of your huskies you post about are in shelters. And I know you said your goal is to help them from being returned once they're adopted. So let's talk a little bit about the types of information that you share and the advocacy that you do.
We pretty much share anything from their dietary needs. Huskies do have a tendency to have a zinc deficiency, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. Huskies like to dig. My yard is living proof of that. So we'll talk about, while there are some huskies that you can get to stop, there might not be any other option, and you just learn to fill them. Huskies are vocal. I'm blessed. Rock is actually quiet. Porter's the vocal one. But there are times where they actually really will talk to you, and some of them actually sound like they're saying words.
Mm-hmm. I have one who says, "Ice cream and I love you." Gibson is he doesn't say a lot. I always say he's my wise old soul. He watches and listens a lot, but when he says something, he definitely has something to say.
Yep. So you'll on my page you'll hear me commonly refer to them as parrot dogs.
Yes.
So we welcome anyone on the group. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're just looking for a puppy, if you're looking to adopt a dog. We do allow breeders because we do understand that not everyone wants to adopt a dog. And adopting a dog is a big, huge thing. They already have a past. Some of them are set in their ways that you kind of have to work with them on. So we understand that. And we do have stricter guidelines on that because we don't want just a whole bunch of puppies from people breeding just to breed. But so there are strict guidelines on the breeding aspect, but we allow everyone to post whether lost dogs, if they're looking to adopt one, if they need to rehome their dogs, because we understand that life really does happen. We allow that.
I think that's great, too, because, a lot of times, when we always say, when we hear of dogs getting turned into a shelter or a local pound, we're like, well, if only they reached out. And we have to remember that when people, for whatever reason, of course, sometimes it's hard to accept some of the reasons that people turn a dog in. But I always say, let's look at the bigger picture, and that is the dog, and let's help get the dog that forever, loving home. But I do feel like a lot of people sometimes fall in hardship, or there are really extenuating reasons why they can't keep their husky. And I always commend them when they come forth and do ask for help, because so many times we'll get a dog in a shelter, and we'll say, well, if only they had come forward and we could have networked the dog. And so when they do come forward, I think it's a good thing because they are trying to do right by the dog. Of course, you always do have the extenuating circumstances, and everybody, we get very upset when you hear, they didn't want the dog anymore, and then they get another dog, or, they moved and they couldn't take it. Unfortunately, sometimes there are reasons why people can't take it, if, the dog with them. But for the most part, we all understand that we would never part with ours. But I think the bigger key when we do these listings is to just help that dog get that good home. And I think that's what we have to try to focus on, wouldn't you say?
That's a huge part of the group, is we want them out of the shelters. We don't want to repost them again because they got returned, or we don't want to repost a puppy that outgrew its puppy stage. And we don't want to repost it. We want them to get them out. We want the group to be about, oh, look at my new dog and how happy we are.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you find a lost husky, or you place one of the homeless huskies in a forever home, or you help network it so the dog gets into the home, how does that feel? That's gotta be wonderful.
It makes me feel like I've actually done something for them. I've always wanted to actually open a real rescue, but that costs money, unfortunately, that I don't have right now, and it wouldn't be fair for me to rescue any huskies that I couldn't afford. So this is the thing that I can think of doing for now, and hope to get them out of shelters, out of euthanasia lists and all of that, and into homes where they'll be family members.
And for just being a new group, I mean, you're doing fantastic. I mean, your members are growing, and you really are, making a difference in these Huskies' lives. So it really is a great thing. I think right now you're just shy of 200, right around 187, 190 members, and that's only a week. So that's really great. So hopefully it'll keep growing, so that you can, keep helping these Huskies out there. What do you hope?
I hope. We actually do have dog trainers on there. Some of us, we try to keep it as nice as possible. Some of us are a little bit blunt about things, so we may not tell you exactly what you want to hear, but we'll tell you what you need to hear.
What you need to hear. That's important. And so folks come on your page, they can just ask a question, so that this way maybe one of the trainers can give them some pointers, things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's pretty much all about Husky group, getting them homes, making sure they're safe in their homes. If you're having trouble, instead of returning them, we'll try to work through it with you and everything like that.
And what do you hope to eventually, where do you hope to see the Husky Network, or what do you hope to, I know you want to get as many dogs into loving homes and out of shelters and not be returned, but where do you hope to see the network in the future?
I hope to see it growing. I hope to see that people are actually learning something from it, because that was a huge thing, is we wanted to educate people as well. We had this big thing that you don't always have to train the dog, but you have to train the human too. Mm-hmm. So we want people to be prepared for life. Even if you don't have a Husky, or you don't want a Husky, but you like the breed and want to learn about it, we welcome things like that too. Just pretty much anything that we can do to spread the word around. We eventually want to get people, when we're big enough, that we can go to shelters and ask them to volunteer. Maybe we take the dog for a walk with an Adopt Me vest or something on, to see if we can get them homes locally too.
That's awesome. And again, it's the Husky Network. It's a public group. So if you're on Facebook, just type in the Husky Network on the search bar, and you'll see it pop up. And I believe your header says, I think we only see it, but I believe it's something like everything better with a Siberian Husky. That is the header.
Better with a Husky. Yep.
There you go. So then everybody knows that they're on the right page. And again, if you're just tuning in, this is the Sibe Vibe on the DogWorks Radio, and we're chatting with Mallory Brusletten, and she's Mom to Rocco, an epi dog and a tripod Siberian Husky, who is such an inspiration. And Mallory, along with her friend Cassandra, spearheaded a new group, the Husky Network, which we've been talking about, a public Facebook group where Mallory says they help Huskies find homes, and also just general talk about Huskies to help educate folks on the breed. If you have any questions, Mallory will take them as well. And you can also follow Rocco and his brother Porter, the service dog, on their Facebook page, The Adventures of Rocco and Porter. And we'll have links to both of those over on our DogWorks radio station page, and you can click on the Sibe Vibe drop-down menu, and that's at dogworksradio.com, as well as over on my Five Sibes blog at fivesibes.blogspot.com, and of course on our Five Sibes Siberian Husky Canine News and Reviews Facebook page, where we share all of this. Now, we talked about the group being open, and it's an open network, so anyone can join. Now, I know some groups they have to be accepted in. Is this one like that, or can people just click in and join?
There is a join request. I haven't figured out, because I'm computer illiterate, I haven't figured out how to just make it open. But I'm usually always, it'll go to my phone, and I'm usually always able to click, usually within a good first few minutes, to get you guys in.
Now, when you and I were corresponding, you had mentioned that you hope to one day have the network possibly even become an in-person meeting group, maybe even having, even opening the Husky Rescue, as you said before. What inspires you to do that and to continue on with that?
It was seeing all the shelters and looking at the statistics and all the states where all the Huskies were in the shelters, and quite a few of them have been adopted out and returned, and adopted out and returned again. And it kind of touches my heart and makes me think, Huskies are absolutely gorgeous dogs that we as Husky owners know, but they come with their flaws too, and I don't think everyone's quite prepared to handle them.
Mm-hmm. It's true, and I know even with my guys, because a lot of people say, oh, they get along famous, and they really do. And for the most part, I always say that we have lounging huskies. You know, their working breed is to who, you know, hopping around to who gets the bed first. But of course, they're huskies. They get zoomies. Some people don't understand that zoomies are. You know a zoomie when you see it. That's about what I can, you know, as you can probably attest to, Robert, as you can probably attest to, when huskies get the zoomies, you're talking some fast-moving dogs and things flying like pillows, or if they're outside, you know, it's not for everybody, and they do need to get the zoomies out.
They shut their ears off, and they don't remember their name for some reason.
Yes, you can call them. I believe the saying goes, a husky will run until the sun sets. And then when they finally stop, when they're too tired, and they do turn their hearing back on, that's the sad part, because a lot of times they are so far away, they don't know where they are, and all of a sudden it's like, where's my family? So these are things, too, also that people need to also keep in mind. Robert, do your guys get the zoomies?
Oh, yes. We have a couple that we bring into the house, and I tell you what, they're running around all the time.
And that's really interesting, because your guys get exercise. You know, they're sled dogs, and I know you guys are out working with the ATV and on bikes, and they still get the zoomies, right?
Yes, they seem to never want to stop.
Now, Mallory, Rocco and Porter have their own Facebook pages, I've mentioned. And what is their page about? And I know that's new as well, so what do you hope that grows into?
That one's just more for fun, just sharing pictures, because sometimes my family members get a little tired of seeing thousands of pictures of my dogs.
No.
So that one's a little bit more geared, you know, to see that a tripod really can do all these wonderful things. There's pictures of him hiking. There's pictures of him swimming. There's pictures, Porter's actually mixed with Pitbull, so he's kind of an advocacy on that one, too. I mean, hey, I'm not aggressive. I actually have a job, and I love doing it, and I love everyone that ever meets me, because when he's off duty and he's allowed to be just a dog, if someone were to walk up to him, he thinks that he's automatically their best friend. So
these are really great messages to get out about him as well. Now, let's just talk about Porter for a little bit also, because he's a service dog. So, and how much training did you have to put into Porter, and did he acclimate? Because, you know, some dogs really take to it pretty quickly. And so just maybe talk a little bit about his therapy training or service dog training.
He's a smart dog. We started just doing obedience with him at 9 weeks. I mean, by 10 weeks, he was already sitting and laying down on command. A lot of stuff is natural. He picks up on my son's emotions naturally. Originally, he was picking up on my anxiety because I suffer from anxiety, so we started working with him on me. But he bonded so much with my son that he ended up being my son's dog. And, I mean, not only does he have that natural connection where he can pick up, it took a good maybe year and a half of working. He still has things there. He's fine in public and everything, but he's still working on certain things. For the most part, he'll warn you when my son runs, but not all the time. So he's still in training for the most part, but he's getting it.
That's really wonderful. Now, Robert, you do the Alaska Dog Works training as well. So can you talk a little bit about Huskies and therapy dog training and service dog training?
We've had just a couple of Huskies as service dogs. We find them to be a little bit too excitable, especially when they're meeting new people. But, you know, every dog is a little different. So we've seen some very calm Siberians over the years, and some that, you know, you just can't take out of the house without a leash, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. And now, Mallory, what adventure is up next for Rocco, Porter, and your family?
We pretty much live day by day. It's just whatever we feel like doing in the morning, we go and do it. So there really is no saying what we'll do tomorrow. Tomorrow we might take a trip up into a park or to a mountain. We really live by the moment.
I think you guys are so inspirational from, your husband being a veteran and, of course, with his having the tremors and having a tripod and a canine epileptic, having a son who's autistic, and then having a service dog. And it's just, to me, it's so inspirational to hear you talk and that you enjoy all these wonderful adventures and show that there's nothing that can stop you when you want to do something in life. And I just think that's really wonderful. Robert, do you have anything that you would like to ask Mallory about, her dogs or her pages or her network?
I'm just interested in the tripod. A couple of weeks ago, we did a race up here, a dryland race, where we're doing some bike joring. And for folks that aren't familiar with that, that's running one or two dogs out in front of your bike on a line. And one of the ladies was running a two-dog team, and one of them was a tripod, and they did very well. I think they finished 5th in about 12 places, so they did awesome with their little tripod dog. So I know from experience of watching those guys, they can boogie down the trail if they need to.
That's really great. That's wonderful. It's so good to hear that, and I think it's great getting these messages out because, I talk a lot about canine epilepsy and really hope that folks will, consider, bringing a dog that has epilepsy into their home or adopting one that maybe is in a shelter, that they don't be afraid because it has seizures, or, even if their dog develops it, please just, stick with the dog. And, there's definitely things that you can do, and they bring so much joy to you. But, also, to me, it's inspirational hearing these other disabilities that, to me, dogs are amazing. I think we can learn so much from them because of just how they attack life, and they love life no matter what their disability is.
I can absolutely agree with that. Both of my dogs, and Porter has that whole pit bull stigma behind him, but, he's a 2-year-old service dog. And then, of course, Rocco with his tripod and being epileptic, he goes through life like nothing's ever wrong.
It's wonderful. That's so great. Well, Mallory, I'll definitely be seeing you online, and I'm already in love with that dog from Michigan because, I have a soft spot for woolies. My 4 are traditional, and Gibson's my big woolly, but she really is beautiful. So any folks out there in Michigan, please go over to her the Husky Network page and give a look. This dog is over at the Jackson County Animal Shelter, but she's gorgeous. So hopefully...
Mm-hmm. Found quite a few very, very pretty dogs that made home.
Yeah, I think right below her is a puppy, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like a very young dog. So, and that one's from Georgia. She's got them from all of the different states. So, definitely check it out and, pop over there, follow the network. You have any questions, ask her. And, I'm on there as well. I'm very happy to be part of this growing group. And Mallory, just thank you so much for joining us today. And, it's just amazing the things that Rocco can do, and Porter's an amazing dog there too. You got a lot of great stuff going on there.
Thank you.
And Robert, if anything else before we close out the show?
If you could just mention what we're talking about next month.
I sure can. Next month, as you know, is November, and that, of course, is, National Epilepsy Awareness Month. And our special guest will be Sandra Demers, and she's the author of Corey's Story. And that's going to be, she has a touching book all about her epi dog, Corey, and how they lived and went camping and just really lived with a dog with epilepsy.
Very nice. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us, and Dorothy, welcome back to your show, The Sibe Vibe. I was very hopeful that we would get back on the air soon, and I hope your mom is doing well.
Thank you. Yeah, that's like I said, that's a day-by-day thing, and so I hope for the good days. I also just want to mention our last show last month. That was slightly different that we did. We kind of, I think it really worked out well, and I want to thank the girls that stepped in, Jody Eckberg and Janine Chang, because, we kind of pieced that together with pre-recorded clips from an event that was supposed to be at the Canine Epilepsy Expo, which was this summer, and unfortunately my mom had her accident and I couldn't make it, but these girls stepped in and really kind of took over, and we were able to put clips together. And that show turned out pretty good, right?
I think it did just fine for your first one like that. No complaints on my part, and I think it was excellent.
Well, we had a lot of great information, and it was, I thank everybody for tuning into the show. And like I said, it was slightly different from our normal ones, but we're back on, and we'll be talking to everybody next month. And again, Mallory, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right,
Robert,
guys.
have a good one.
Likewise. Until next time, see you there. Bye.
Did you know that Alaska Dog Works trains service dogs for those in need throughout North America? Each and every service dog that is trained through the Lead Dog Service Dog Program and Michelle Forto and her team has an individual training plan. We train for autistic, mobility, psychiatric, and PTSD for our soldiers for service work. If you know of someone that may need a service dog, please take a moment and check out Alaska Dog Works on social media and at alaskadogworks.com.
If you like our podcast, there are a few things you can do. You can take a couple of minutes and go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also check out all of our DogWorks Radio sponsors and promotions in our show notes. Another thing you can do is go over to Facebook, like our Facebook page, and one last thing, please tell all of your friends by spreading the word about DogWorks Radio. Thank you so much for listening to us. We really appreciate you.
DogWorks Radio is produced by Robert Forto. Logo art by Angry Squirrel Studios. DogWorks Radio is produced in conjunction with KVRF 89.7 in Palmer, Alaska.
For dog training advice, you can contact Alaska Dog Works at 907-841-1686 or visit their website at alaskadogworks.com. If you have a show idea or would like to be a guest, please contact us by sending an email to live@dogworksradio.com.